Hello everyone, welcome to this news hour on Équinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, Cameroonians raise concerns over the increase in the cost of acquiring a simple or ordinary passport from 75,000 to 110,000 francs CFA. They think that this is coming at the wrong time, considering the difficult economic situation in which Cameroon and her citizens find themselves today. And we spoke to some of them. You will hear them in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television, while the population of Esenge here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, have stood up to say no to forceful eviction. They staged a protest today to stop the demolition of their houses by authorities of the Douala International Airport. Stay with us. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. And we're beginning this newscast with opinions of Cameroonians concerning the increase in the cost of acquiring an ordinary passport in the country from 75,000 to 110,000 francs CFA. Many Cameroonians think that the increment is coming at the wrong time, considering the difficult economic and financial situation in which the country and its citizens find themselves today, seriously affected by socio-economic and security tensions in the northwest, southwest, far north and east regions of the country and the coronavirus pandemic. Innocent has compiled their views in this report.
The sharp increase in the cost of establishing or procuring a Cameroonian passport, that is from 75,000 francs to 110,000 francs CFA. Many Cameroonians have not stopped crying out loud.
From 75,000 to 110,000, it is an unspeakable situation in regards to our economic tight down in Cameroon. Poverty, it's almost in 95% for the population of Cameroon.
With the situation of the country right now, because when you look at the situation of the country, at any time you might like to travel, but due to this increase, it means the government is not, can say they are not interested in the citizens, because something might happen that you need to maybe go out of the country. Like now that the situation is not really very good, so with some of us maybe will not have the money to do the passport. So I think it's not really good.
Despite this quick delivery advantage upon online application, some citizens still think the cost should have rather dropped and the 3-month deadline to get the passport maintained in a bid to encourage Cameroonians move out.
They would have even looked for a way to even drop it down instead of increasing it. So I don't think it's good. It's not good for me.
The head of state and every other office in charge of the passport should please try to cut down the price back to its normal 52,000 francs as it were in the years back. Please, the government should look on this, because going abroad, going out of the country for greener pastures will enable young Cameroonians to get money and come back and reinvest in the country.
Another Cameroonian thinks the new passport cost is not really the problem that people should worry about, but the delivery.
I think the problem here is delivery. A lot of Cameroonians have really suffered from this issue of passport. Well, we are hoping that with the coming of the biometrics, if they say 110,000 and few days the passport is out, we want to say that we will not have a problem with the price, but we shall have a problem with the delivery, if only they will respect the time frame and issue people their biometric passports within a short possible time if they pay their 110,000.
It should be remembered, this new passport procurement procedure will begin July 1st, 2021, as contained in an order modifying the 2021 finance law signed by President Paul Biya, and applies to all those who want to renew, prolong, or will establish an ordinary passport. The new increase in the cost of a Cameroonian passport is the third in 20 years.
The cost of obtaining an ordinary passport moving from 75,000 to 110,000 francs CFA, and this that is 35,000 francs CFA increases from July 1, 2021, and this is contained in the amendment of the 2021 finance law signed by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, as indicated there by Equinoxe. Within the past 2 decades, the passport stamp fees has increased from 30,000 to 50,000, and now from 75,000 to 110,000 francs CFA. Greater details with Charles Ekome.
Most important adjustments made by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, on the 7th of June 2021, which is contained in an ordinance, is that of an increase in the prices of issuing a national passport, which was previously issued at 75,000 francs CFA and is now going to be issued at the price range of 110,000 francs CFA. But other adjustments are contained in the ordinance. One of them concerns the special budget allocated for the COVID-19 pandemic, which was previously 180 billion francs CFA and is now going to be 200 billion francs CFA, thus recording an increase of 20 billion francs CFA from its initial envelope. An increase which is made when the fraudulent scandal vis-a-vis the mismanagement of the COVID-19 funds, which was dispersed to over 20 ministerial departments, hasn't been elucidated. The adjustments made by the head of state also involve the marketing of products and revenue collection for 2021, whereby the monitoring of the sale of petroleum products is of great importance to the states. At the end of the year 2020, the government supported this initiative with 418 million francs CFA and has now increased the envelope by 149 million francs CFA, making a total of 561 million francs CFA. An optimistic perspective nurtured by the price range of a barrel of fuel in international markets, which now costs $65 American. These modifications have now made the state budget amount to 5,235 billion francs CFA, recording an increase of more than 300 billion francs CFA. These adjustments are being made within the context of slow economic progress of businesses due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
The population of Esenge in the Douala 1 subdivision has said no to the destruction of their houses. They have stood up to say or to denounce forceful eviction by authorities of the Douala Port Authority and not the Douala International Airport, as earlier indicated. They took to the streets to protest and manifest their anger against the planned demolition of their homes. Smanjik and Gabriel has more.
Pupils of this denominational nursery and primary school in Esenge might not be able to study again in their classrooms in the nearest future. It is the same fate for the Muslim community in Esenge, who might not be also worshipping in their mosque. This is so because the Douala Port Authority has marked their buildings respectively for imminent destruction. The planned demolition exercise that doesn't involve only the school and mosque forced the inhabitants of Esenge to stage a protest against what they qualify as lies telling by the Port Authority.
We realized that it was just a strategy just to chase us away, and now we are coming to stand against that movement to tell the port that we are also citizens of Cameroon, and for that reason we have our right and we should fight for our right, and we are going to stand for our right. We are not here to fight, we are not fighting anyone, we are just here to stand by the law and to claim what belongs to us.
Several homes in Esenge were also marked to be demolished. The Port Authority had told these inhabitants that the demolition exercise was to enable the opening of a road. They
came with the idea that they want to build one road, but finally we realized that that was not just the road. But unfortunately, they entered inside the quarter, to destroy the quarter, and to establish so many roads. We have so many roads inside our area, and we are asking ourselves, just a small area, just a small town like this one, how many roads can we build here?
Several messages were brandished by the angry people of Esenge, calling on government to intervene.
We need the government to intervene because the situation has gone beyond our control, and we need government to come and tell us the truth. We depend on government. The port cannot take decisions without government concern.
Even though the Port Authority has vowed to demolish the marked houses, the people of Esenge say they can't let go their investment that has already been done in the locality.
We have so many investment. Our parents invested there. I in particular, I'm a graduate from Ghana. I just came back from Ghana 1 year ago, and I have a huge investment here. I'm not working so far. Not just me. There are many who have invested. The colleague here beside me is a nurse, a doctor. He has a clinic. We are so many. We have billions of investment. If we want to make evaluation of what we have here in Esenge, we have billions of investment that we have invested in Esenge.
During the protests, the Esenge neighborhood was heavily militarized, but fortunately, the planned demolition didn't go ahead as planned. The people of Esenge now sleep with an eye open.
Inhabitants of Fako in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon have been urged to be friendly towards the environment. The Divisional Delegate for Environment, Nature Protection and Sustainable Development, Equinoxe, urged the people to avoid actions that contribute to environmental degradation. That was during World Environment Day. Davidson Maimo reports on Libe.
There is no gainsaying to say the effect of climate change is becoming more and more visible each passing day. In Limbe, rivers that used to flow with large volume are now shadow of themselves. Hospitals are reported recording more cases linked to body rashes as a result of intense temperature within the city. These and more, not leaving out drop in fish catch in the Atlantic Ocean due to the cutting down of mangrove, which serves as breeding ground for fishes. Celebrating this year World Environment Day under the theme Ecosystem Restoration, the Divisional Delegate for Environment and Protection of Nature for Fako Division says more energy is being channeled by the government on education and sensitization.
The climate is crying, the environment is crying, nature is crying, and we are already feeling the effects on us because of poor management of our resources.
Bringing together some civil society organization, climate change advocate, and environmental club students representative from some schools, the delegates stress on the need for all hands on deck in preserving the ecosystem.
Calling on everybody to come out and restore our environment, to restore nature.
Civil society organizations were more involved in tree planting exercise in some schools.
Instill in them that notion that tree planting is essential. So it's not just telling them plant trees, plant trees, plant trees, but you doing it practically, it sticks in their mind. So ASEF has taken this strategy to impose that.
The students appreciated being part of protecting the environment.
I'm calling on all my friends, my age mates, my classmates from other schools to always take care of the environment. My message.
Memo reporting there from Limbe. A study carried out by the League of Cameroonian Consumers at DIC showed that only 1.92% of Cameroonian goods are present in major trade platforms like supermarkets in the country, and this depicts the local market and consumption patterns of Cameroonians, which are highly dominated by imported products whose quality and standards are most often allegedly not controlled. The study revealed that only 2.94% of Cameroonian products like rice, notably rice, is sold in the supermarkets, and 97% of imported rice are sold in those retail chains, and experts have advanced several reasons why local Cameroonian goods are almost inexistent in local supermarkets, whose contents, according to Arctic study, is over 98% imported goods. And besides several reasons, including foreign-dominated consumption habits of many Cameroonians, is the low competitive strength of Cameroonian products or goods. Elsewhere, President of Arctic, late Bernard Jongang, stated in one of his write-ups that many made-in-Cameroon goods do not subscribe to any ethical charter. Arctic's findings also disclose that Cameroon's small and medium-sized enterprises and small and medium-sized industries are not competitive, thus the importance of registration codes for goods made in Cameroon in a bid to check contraband and increase the competitive capacity of those goods. Some experts and stakeholders were meeting yesterday here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, to discuss on how to benefit from the importance of registration codes for goods made in Cameroon to be more credible, visible, and competitive. And this is what was on the discussion table during that meeting yesterday here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. And today we are receiving a traceability expert, Fabrice Eke, Chief Executive Officer of GS1 Cameroon. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jonathan.
What explains the low competitive strength or the weak competitive strength of Cameroonian products on national and international markets today?
We have many challenge. I think the first thing maybe is to be able to identify our products really all the world, to have the single identification like an ID card. And also another challenge is to able to have some digitalization. It means that we need to take all the information in the packaging and put that available for all the stakeholders. And then we can pretend to the traceability. So I'd say roughly we have many tracks, but by the beginning we should able to identify all our projects.
And identification of the product is what you were discussing yesterday with some stakeholders here in Cameroon's economic capital during the meeting at the Chamber of Commerce. Can you tell us a little more about the GS1 code? I think it's 67 or 367.
Yeah, 617.
617.
Yeah, right. Indeed. So that's the identification of our country. So GS1 is a global organization. We are trying to empower organization, so to be able to trade in every part in the world. And in Cameroon, we have the barcode, or we deliver that. It's the 617, our identification. By that barcode, we should able also to have, as just mentioned, the visibility of all our projects. So the thing we are trying here is really to sensibilize all the stakeholders that we have now the tool to identify our produce in everywhere in the world. And don't forget that GS1 is about 2 billion company, and also all the main distributor in the world. So we have here the competitive or the challenge to go really put our produce every part around the world.
Is it that easy to be identified using that code? Because there are many Cameroonians today who are producing different goods, drinks, and other even medicinal products and so on, but they are not identified. They are not competitive as much as foreign products whose quality and standards are not always controlled according to some findings of consumers organizations in the country. But how to get to that level of being properly identified in order to be more competitive?
I think that the action have really to put also the government around the table to discuss about that, because here we seem that have a miss of communication, and that was the purpose of that meeting yesterday, because we try to really make the people aware about how to make that codification, because the foreign producers always have that, let's say, that education, and they know exactly how they can have a good barcode to reference all their products. So I think here to answer that is really to put all that industry, stakeholder, government, or all those around the table, and to really try to make them understand that it's more important to have a barcode who can identify your products. Because don't forget that, Jonathan, when you have a good barcode, we scan that because it's a free application. You should be able to retrieve information about the industry behind, so the mark or the brand who make that, also the information about that product. So basically that's the small function of barcode, and then we can pretend that okay, we can go for the traceability, track and trace, to be able to have some kind of traceability by serialization. That's the thing we do with, especially for the medication.
Right, I believe this is also very much about quality and standards. So what are the requirements? Do you just accept everything that comes to you as made in Cameroon to be identified with that code? What are the requirements? Somebody, for example, who is producing fruit juice, who is producing a biscuit, who is producing some other little things here and there, how to be able to benefit from the advantages of that code?
The first thing we try to do is really to have some kind of due diligence. So at least they have to prove that they are the owner of that brand. So that's the first thing. We add some proof of that. We keep that. Until then, we try really, we are GS1 Cameroon, and we try to really deliver or allocate the barcode for the company that we know that they are located in Cameroon and create the hard value in Cameroon. So that's the first thing. And then we really try also to, let's say, have some kind of sensibilization, I will say like that, to make the people that have, in instance, the tool, we have, we call that IGP, and they can really download that and to get information. And to answer that really precisely, we have we are developing in GS1 Cameroon some application. In the next few months, we should be able to scan the barcode and to really retrieve not just all the information about the products, but also deeply the information about the source of that ingredient. So.
All right. Now, somebody who is listening to you now, business is all about making profit. What will be the immediate fallouts of being identified with that code and being easily traceable?
The first thing is really the e-commerce. We really try to promote that because we know that it's a very, very good opportunity, especially in Cameroon here. Because the next time or another company, they don't have that truth information behind. So now in GS1, when you get the barcode, you already have the digitalization of your product, because we don't deliver the barcode. It's an application. You come there and you should be able to describe all your products into that application, and as soon as you describe that information, they are really displayed in every part of the world. So all the, I would say, the distributor in the world could really connect with the local. So we try to cut the intermediate. So because in that barcode, in instance, if you have a product somewhere in the world, they can scan that and say, okay, that's a product for Jonathan, and call you for that. So to say like that briefly, first thing is really to make visible that produce every part in the world, and then to get that some kind of confidence, because we say the truthfully, because they know that that information is true, and to refer to a product, and you can be connected with all the distributors in all the world.
All right, Fabrice Eke, traceability expert, CEO, GS1 Cameroon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Now, in news out of the Republic of Cameroon, we take you to Congo. Return movements of people to Goma have intensified in recent days. Authorities are reassuring the people displeased by the volcanic eruption that earthquakes are no longer felt in the city. The Minister of Transport and Communication and Access announced the reopening of air traffic at Goma International Airport, which had been closed since May 23. The reopening allowed the Congolese government's delegation of 12 national ministers to land led by the Prime Minister to land in Goma, and Congolese authorities have been helping people displaced by last month's volcanic eruption to return home to Goma, but not everyone is keen to board the buses provided by the provincial government. Frustration has been mounting among the displaced, who are blaming officials for failure to alert the population ahead of the disaster. And that's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Our guest today, joining us from the United States of America, Dr. Emma Osong, is an American of Cameroonian origin. She is one of America's notable advocates and leading voices striving for permanent peace based on justice in the security crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. As an author, educator, speaker, and peace advocate, she is the founder of Women for Permanent Peace and Justice, WPPJ. She is also an aerospace system engineer. Doctor, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, Fabula. Thank you for having me on the show. Glad to be here to talk with you and your guests.
You are a peace advocate, and in your home country, in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, peace has become more or less a scarce commodity in several parts of those two regions because of a 5-year-long armed conflict going on there. What's your take about what is happening back home?
Regrettable, Mr. Jonathan Fabula. It is a regrettable situation all around that for nearly 5 years, despite all the calls for cessation of hostilities, I speak as a woman, as a mother, as someone with relatives, as I say, who are facing the brunt of what has been a 5-year-long conflict. All of the appeals have come to naught. So here we are again, asking the question, what is really going to get the government of Cameroon, Mr. Biya, first to ascend to the call for a global ceasefire so as to allow the women and children to get back to their normal lives? I think that's a good place to start. When you ask what is my take, it is simple. Demilitarize the zone and there will be no conflict. Get to the table of dialogue and begin the work to transform this conflict so that peace can really return, but not the kind of peace, Mr. Babila, that is purchased at the barrel of the gun, not the kind of peace that is got through acquiescence, and not the prayer peace that simply says a miracle will happen. No, it takes the parties to a conflict to engage. And so far, that has been elusive. That is my take, Jonathan. It is my plea, my heartfelt plea, and that of the millions of women who hail from the part of this part of the world, sub-Saharan Africa, in southern Cameroon, who every day wake up to the death and destruction, saying to the perpetrators, to the belligerent, Mr. Babila Jonathan, it is time to dialogue, because all conflicts can only be transformed when we enroll, we engage to create new possibilities. I will end there as to my take and initial reactions.
Advocating for peace based on justice, not just peace, but peace based on justice. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, peace is a feeling which you can have if you will it to yourself. But it does not change the fact that the underlying structures, systems, processes are void of the basic tenets, the basic ingredients that make for sustaining that peace. There is negative peace and there is positive peace. I would like the entire listening population to truly ask themselves whether there is, in fact, peace in the construct called Cameroon, whether there has been peace in Cameroon, and if there is, in fact, peace today. So peace based on justice is saying the only credible peace you can truly have, which is positive peace, comes from looking and addressing the drivers of the conflict. You could, as I said earlier, Mr. Babila, you could get people to feel peace, but does that portend justice? Does that portend for them? Does that mean for them that in fact their systems, their society, their grievances have been addressed? No. So peace based on justice is saying that you meet because you're now in conflict. We cannot ignore the fact that Cameroon is at war with 8 million people in one part called Southern Cameroons. It therefore means to achieve peace, permanent peace, suggests addressing what the drivers of that conflict is in order to address the situation and achieve justice for all. It is a very simple concept. It rides on the truth, not being dependent on time and mutable. Therefore, you go back to what are the underlying causes. So far, from Women for Permanent Peace's perspective, our cry is to get the belligerents who are now fueling this conflict, Mr. Babila, to sit down and examine what is causing the ongoing killing and the desolation that it leaves in its wake for hundreds and thousands of women and children. So it is our wish that we can get to that point where there is that meeting to get to resolving and transforming the conflict.
What seems a little difficult to come by, even though there have been calls coming from everywhere, is that aspect of justice. Many are still demanding for justice today. The victims of the Ngarbu massacre, the victims of the Pinyin massacre, victims of several incidents like this in those two regions, still demanding for justice today. Several persons who have been arrested, according to some legal minds and civil society leaders, arbitrary and are being detained illegally. Calls have been coming from everywhere for those people to be released so that the peace can come along with justice. But this is not happening because on the other side, government is saying the law has to be respected, and those who violated the law or who are being accused of having violated the law must be punished according to the law. How to reconcile these positions, these extreme positions?
Well, first of all, if you have already engaged in military actions, it supposes a breakdown of the law in that part. And if you are using the military solution, is it a surprise, Mr. Babila, that the young men and women and children have decided to take up arms? Now, let's get back to talking not so much about breaking the law, because if we want to examine that, let's look at the response from President Biya's bid to peaceful protesters. Are you trying to tell me, Mr. Babila, that the thousands languishing in Kondengi, who in 2017, the images are there for the world to see, took up peace plans and chanted on the streets and were met by the violent gunship helicopters constitute violating the law? Well, if we are to look at that, then today we will not be waking up to the United States issuing a visa ban on the perpetrators of violence. We will not wake up today and the United States is removing a country from the AGOA benefits, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. We will not wake up today and they cut military aid. There is a message underlying all of it, which transcends the presupposition that you have just made in your lead-in question, that these are individuals who break the law. They are fundamental questions that have to be resolved to address this conflict. Unfortunately, Mr. Babila, the government has decided, President Biya of Cameroon has decided that he will pursue to the very end a military solution. You should ask America about pursuing a military solution, and they'll tell you that it's a dead end. They will tell you about the experiences in Vietnam, and more recently, their experiences in Afghanistan after nearly 35 years. Isn't it time for President Biya to accept to sit down with the armed groups at the year-long conflict and spare our children, spare future generations, so we don't bequeath the next generation with a legacy of war, and go to the substantive matter?
So the President of the Republic have said repeatedly that the President of the Republic, his policy option as far as solving that crisis is concerned is dialogue, and that the military is there to respond to the military component of the crisis. But when we look at all what has been happening all this while, earlier you were talking about the visa restrictions that the United States has announced, and that will be imposed on people who are suspected or found guilty of hindering the peaceful resolution of that conflict. Do you think such a move is going to have any impact on with regards to efforts to restore peace and normalcy in those two regions?
Let me start first by saying that every initiative aimed at resolving this unfortunate, senseless war is applause and must be applauded. Those of us who have the benefit of living in distant shores from our homelands that are relatively peaceful and democratic have labored and worked day and night to lobby lawmakers with big stakes like the United States to intervene. You've heard it said that this conflict is the most neglected and ignored in the world, despite its consequential life tragedy for many of us. So we must applaud the United States for stepping in. As I said earlier, they are moving on. First, it was AGOA, military, and now visa restrictions. But my only sadness in all of this, Babila, if I had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Blinken, the Secretary of State for the United States, I would remind him that the United States has acted more forcefully around the world where the stakes were less than the nearly 1 million displaced in Cameroon, almost 4 million purported to be in need of humanitarian aid, nearly 8 out of every 10 age school children either not fully in school or not going to school, the refugees, as well as the internally displaced. America acted, for instance, just this year with the new Biden administration to issue what is called the Khashoggi ban. Now think about it. The killing of one man by Saudi Arabia in Turkey. Not only was visa restrictions imposed, they named and shamed those who the United States has banned from entering the United States, as well as financial sanctions on them. Now, let's talk about visa restrictions in the case of Cameroon. You've heard it said that almost 80% of those who make the military decisions, as well as the decisions to perpetuate the continued crisis in the Northwest, more than likely travel to France more so than they do to the United States. So here again, the elephant in the room is the continued looking away and aiding by France a continued aggression on a people. So as I said earlier, the truth is not dependent on time. The US has gone far in doing a few things right so far, not as fast as we would like, given its dominance in the world, and given the fact that it does have the capability to change the trajectory for conflict in Africa. They have, Babila, as you would know, as of May of this year, instituted a resolution to sanction Eritrea involvement in the Tigray crisis in Ethiopia.
Right.
So you can see
Dr. Emma Osong, we have exhausted our time, and I should remind our viewers that you are one of America's notable advocates and leading voices striving for permanent peace based on justice in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, and you are the founder of Women for Permanent Peace and Justice, WPPJ. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Babila, and great to be here.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe is up next.